The Scythery didn't walk. It glided. Drexelun moved through the concourse of Vraxos Prime as if it were made of vapor and thought. It wove between crowds like a blade through silk, silent, unnoticed, inevitable. Its senses weren't visual. Not in the way humans understood. Drexer hunted through fear. Every being emitted it, traces in their pheromones, pulses in their steps, cracks in their breath. The air was thick with it today. Perfect. Target, a diplomat. Species, Valari. Location, Gate 7. Risk, minimal. Drexer's inner data feed confirmed everything. The diplomat's entourage consisted of low-level guards, a few amphibious Krillins, one mid-ranked Savathi pilot. No threat. And then it caught a strange signal. Not fear, its absence. A stillness in the storm. Drexer halted mid-stride. The crowd bustled on, unaware. But one figure stood still. A human. Short-cut tactical coat. Stubble like unshaved steel. One gloved hand resting against a belt-mounted comm device. Muscular, but still. Breathing slow. Gaze fixed. Drexer scanned. No tension in the jaw. No tremor in the fingers. Heartbeat, steady. Not calm, cold. It blinked. The human didn't. Drexer stepped back. You see that? Kael Rhys muttered into his comm bead, barely moving his lips. Negative, came the reply. See what? Kael shifted his stance, just a hair. That thing that just blinked. Looked like it meant to kill something. Saw me. Changed its mind. There was a pause on the other end. You want backup? Kael's eyes tracked the shape that had just vanished into the crowd. No. I want confirmation. Pull camera feeds from the last 2 minutes. Triangulate movement around the Valari diplomat. On it. Drexer fled into shadow. Not out of fear, not yet. But this was new. Humans were supposed to be reactive. Fragile. Emotionally volatile. Predictable prey. Yet that man had shown no signal Drexer could process. He wasn't afraid. It had encountered warriors. Fighters. But even the most hardened soldiers had tells. Their bodies prepared for violence. Muscles coiled. Breath sharpened. Intent leaked. But that man, he had simply watched. As if he wasn't preparing for a fight. As if he was waiting for it. Back at the secure room, Kael watched 3 monitors replay the incident. No one else in the crowd seemed to notice. But there it was, frame by frame. That alien moved unnaturally smoothly. Its cloak shimmered with refractive camouflage. Its footsteps were silent even at full zoom. But then came the pause. It turned. Saw Kael. And backed away. Gotcha, Kael whispered. Drexer paced its quarters, the lights dim, the scent suppressants humming. Its claws flexed reflexively. This mission had shifted. It opened a data file on humans. Military engagements. Earth's historical archives. Wars. Genocides. Viral weapons. Tactical brilliance, and madness. It paused on one segment, Omega War, Cycle 212. Visual footage. Close quarters footage of Terran Special Forces clearing a Zenthari nest with nothing but knives, flashbangs, and chemical suppressors. And there he was. Kael Rhys. Same face. Same comm. This wasn't just some bystander. This was a veteran predator. I've got something, the tech said over Kael's earpiece. Go. Facial match. It's a Scythery. Drexerluan. Bounty hunter. Special class. Kael leaned forward slightly. Targets? Multiple. Usually political. Operates just outside treaty law. No known defeats. Doesn't talk. Doesn't miss. Kael nodded once. Until today. Kael made his way through the corridor toward the diplomat's holding lounge. Every step measured. His coat fluttered lightly as he moved past traders, travelers, and a dozen species he didn't bother to name. Inside, the Valari ambassador, shaped like a 6-foot lavender jellyfish wrapped in ceremonial mesh, floated near a security console, visibly annoyed. "You are making my delegation late," it said in polished Terran. Kael raised a brow. "Someone just tried to make you dead." "I'd say I'm earning my pay. Assassins are common. That is why I hired you." Kael looked out the small viewport at the crowd below. "That thing down there isn't common." Drexler watched from a ventilation shaft, claws gripping silently to the metal mesh. Kael was below. The prey, just beyond. He could end this. Drop from the ceiling. Crush the ambassador. Escape in seconds. But his body didn't move. The memory of that man's gaze, still there. Not afraid. Not surprised. Just ready. Drexler snarled low. A new emotion, unfamiliar and unwelcome, itched beneath his skin. Doubt. "Set perimeter locks on all corridors from Sector A to D," Kael said. "You really believe it'll try again?" asked one of the guards. Kael looked at him. "If it's professional, yes. It doesn't want the job, it wants the reputation. Backing down from a contract will stain its record. And if it does try again?" Kael's lip curled slightly. "Then I get to send a message." Drexler returned to its ship. Not to retreat, but to study. It pulled up everything it could on Kael Rhys. Omega War. Blackout operations. Enemy kill lists. Escape from Chorus 9. Survived a biomech collapse on Scylla. Kael wasn't just a soldier. He was a survivor. Drexler's claws twitched. Maybe the mission wasn't just to eliminate the ambassador anymore. Maybe it was to prove it could eliminate a human. In the dark corner of the command center, Kael leaned against a wall, gaze distant. "You still there?" came the voice on his comm. "Yeah. What are you thinking?" Kael cracked his knuckles. "I've fought monsters before. This one's different." "How so?" Kael exhaled slowly. "It knows fear now. Just hasn't figured out how to live with it." Drexler's ship hung in orbit above Vraxos Prime, cloaked and silent. The Predator sat inside its darkened cockpit, eyes glowing faint amber, watching. Playback screens filled the space. Every recorded moment of Kael Rhys was loaded, dissected, looped. Combat footage. Interrogations. Recon extractions. No hesitation, no wasted movement. Kael didn't move like prey. He moved like an apex. Drexler's claws drummed on the armrest. It had hunted kings, rebel generals, even void beasts bred to kill. But none had made it pause before engaging. Until now. Down in Sector D's security wing, Kael stood over a map projection of the concourse. The Valari diplomat was safe, for now. Kael wasn't satisfied. He tapped a section on the map. "This corridor. What's the sensor coverage?" 85%, replied Ops Tech Rillo. 2 blind spots, minor. Maintenance doors. Kael nodded. "That's where it'll slip through. Predators love routines. Patterns. Doors others forget." "You think it's coming back?" "No," Kael said. "I know it is." Drexler adjusted the visual overlay across its eye membrane, zooming in on the concourse schematics it had stolen from the station's archives. It identified the same blind spots. So did the human. Drexler growled. This wasn't just a protection detail anymore. It had become a duel. Kael opened his locker in the secure armory. Inside lay a plain black case. He hadn't touched it since the Omega retreat. He popped the locks. Inside, a blade, dark matte, alloyed from neutronium and Terran obsidian steel. Issued only to Omega War veterans who survived frontline collapse scenarios. Kael ran his thumb down the hilt. His fingers remembered the weight before his mind did. "You sure about this?" came a voice from behind. Rillo again. Kael didn't turn. "I don't like killing. But I hate being hunted more." Drexler replayed the footage of Kael's eyes. That expression. Not arrogance. Not challenge. Readiness. It reviewed its own memory logs. Its scent receptors had tasted faint traces of blood on Kael, not fresh, but old. Buried violence. It switched to Kael's war record. Cleared a Sithari nest with no backup. 4 confirmed kills. 0 wounds. Didn't speak for 2 days after. Drexler froze. It had never known a Sithari to fall without marking its killer. The station dimmed as the artificial cycle rolled into night. Less crowd. Less noise. Kael moved like a shadow through the empty corridors, boots soft on metal, coat rustling faintly. His rifle stayed slung, his blade sheathed but loose. He passed a row of closed maintenance hatches. Then stopped. A whisper of air. A wrong pressure change. Kael turned just enough to catch it in his periphery. A shimmer. He didn't reach for his weapon. Didn't move. Just spoke. "You're running late." Drexler disengaged its cloaking and dropped from the ceiling in a crouch, landing 6 meters behind Kael. Its tall frame rose slowly, curved limbs poised, eyes narrowed. "You waited," it hissed. Kael still didn't turn. "I wanted to see if you'd flinch again." Drexler's claws clicked open, gleaming like glass under the emergency light strips. "You are not like the others." "No," Kael said calmly. "I survived things that make most killers weep. You killed my kind before. I'll do it again if I have to." The corridor lights flickered. Drexler moved first, lightning quick, claws flashing, aimed for the spine. Kael spun, sidestepped, drove an elbow into the predator's ribs and kicked backward hard. Drexler skidded across the floor, surprised by the human's speed. Kael drew the blade. Not flashy. Not ceremonial. A weapon designed to end fights. Drexler charged again, but Kael ducked, cut low, opened a wound across the predator's side. It hissed in pain, stumbling back. "Still think I'm prey?" Kael asked, circling. Drexler bared its teeth. "No." It lunged again, claws aiming wide, trying to herd Kael toward the wall. Kael shifted weight, rolled left, came up inside Drexler's reach, slammed the hilt of his blade into the creature's jaw, then elbowed it in the throat. Drexler choked, staggered, but didn't fall. "Why do you hold back?" it snarled. Kael didn't answer. Because he wasn't fighting to kill. He was fighting to teach. Above them, security feeds flickered to static. Kael had disabled the cams before stepping into this corridor. He didn't want this on record. Not because he feared being seen. Because he wanted Drexler to remember. "You feel it now, don't you?" Kael said between breaths. Drexler crouched, panting, one claw dripping with its own black ichor. "Feel what?" Kael took a step forward. "That edge in your gut. That cold pit under your lungs. That's fear. Welcome to the club." Drexler hissed, but its voice faltered. "This is new." Kael sheathed his blade. "You don't get to stalk without consequence. You thought humans were prey because we bleed." He leaned in. "But you forgot, we hunt too." Drexler collapsed to one knee, body shaking, not from injury, but understanding. It had hunted 1,000 beings. But never one who chose not to kill it. That restraint hurt more than any wound. Kael turned and walked away. "Tell your employers the hit failed," he said without looking back. "Next time, send someone who's not afraid to die." Drexler didn't respond. It couldn't. Drexler's wounds sealed fast, but the damage wasn't skin deep. The ship's med bed hummed softly as it worked on his side, but his gaze never left the screen replaying the corridor encounter. Frame by frame. The moment Kael sheathed his blade. The moment he chose not to kill. Drexler watched it again. And again. It wasn't mercy. It was something colder. Something calculated. A decision not to erase, but to mark. Kael sat alone in the observation lounge overlooking the central promenade. The crowd had returned. Trade resumed. The Valari delegation departed safely. No alarms. No reports of violence. To most, it was just another day. But Kael knew something had shifted. "You didn't finish it," Rillo said, approaching with a thermal mug in hand. Kael took it. "Didn't need to. He'll come back." Kael sipped. "Let him." Rillo lowered his voice. "You're not just a bodyguard, are you?" Kael didn't answer. He didn't have to. In orbit, Drexler hovered near the edge of Vraxos Prime's satellite boundary. Alone. Quiet. He had been given his final warning by the Hive. Failure was unacceptable. And yet, he hadn't failed. Not truly. The ambassador lived, yes, but Drexler hadn't been beaten. He'd been spared. There was no dishonor in dying on a mission. But to be let go, to be evaluated, dismissed, left breathing as a lesson? That shattered everything. Kael stood before a classified uplink terminal deep within the station's restricted sector. He inserted a shard, his personal ID, etched in Omega encryption. The display lit with secure Terran encryption. Status: encounter complete. Subject: Drexler LUUN. Outcome: Inoan terminal. Psychological disruption, confirmed. A reply came seconds later. Terran High Command response, acknowledged. You were right to let it live. Trauma echoes farther than blood. Kael closed the terminal. Sometimes, the strongest message isn't a body bag. Drexler returned to the Sithri War Enclave weeks later, limping slightly, though the wound had healed. The Hive overseers noticed. You encountered a Terran, one hissed. Drexler didn't deny it. Kael Rhys. Was the contract fulfilled? No. Then you have failed. Drexler paused. No. I learned. That statement made the room fall quiet. Learning was not failure, it was evolution. What did you learn? That humans don't hunt for sport. They don't fight to prove dominance. They don't chase fear. Then what do they hunt for? Drexler's voice lowered. Necessity. And that makes them lethal beyond instinct. Kael packed his gear slowly, methodically. Same as always. His movements were a ritual, a habit formed on broken worlds and in craters still smoldering. Where next? Rillo asked. Kael slung the bag over his shoulder. Wherever the next message needs sending. Did we win? Kael paused. It's not about winning, he said. It's about letting them remember. The galaxy doesn't spread fear through body counts. Not anymore. It spreads it through stories. And Drexlers would travel far. Whispers in bounty hunter dens. Caution in mercenary bars. Warnings on job boards. Avoid Terran targets. If they don't run, neither should you. Kael Rhys walks among crowds, calm. If he looks at you, don't look back. Drexler stood at the edge of the Hive compound, looking out into the blackness of space. A new contract was being offered. High-paying. Low risk. Simple. It didn't take long for Drexler to decline. Not because he feared death. But because now, for the first time, he understood its weight. He no longer hunted noise. He hunted meaning. On a forgotten world, in a rundown tavern filled with smoke and buzzing plasma lights, two ex-contractors leaned over a bottle. You hear the Drexler story? One muttered. The human who made him back off, the other asked. Yeah. That's no myth? Nope. Happened on Vraxos. They say Drexler walked away bleeding. They say he hesitated. Terrans, man. They drank in silence. Kael passed through another starport days later, unarmored, unarmed. Just a man in a coat, duffel on his back, walking quietly. A young alien soldier recognized him, barely, and stared from across the terminal. Kael noticed. He gave the kid a small nod. Not a threat. Not a warning. Just a promise. Back on Vraxos, a maintenance worker scrubbed blood off the walls of Corridor Delta. The security footage had been wiped, the lights repaired, the incident never officially recorded. But rumors clung to the steel. Even the station's AI avoided directing cleaning drones through that sector. Some spaces remember what Silence tried to forget. In orbit, Drexer's ship drifted alone. No new contracts. No plan. Just time. And memory. The footage of Kael remained on its screen, paused on the moment the blade lowered. Not out of pity. Out of choice. Drexer finally shut the display. It didn't need to watch anymore. It had seen all it needed to become something new.